Great,
All right,
Jason.
we're back in the park.
Sunday in the park with Jason.
That's right. Now, Charles, the reason why I know I'm always concerned that people might find it somewhat redundant, some of the places that we choose, but there is so much happening that even going to the same place week over week, we're seeing a lot of, what's the opposite of progress? Regress.
Retrogression. But
What are we expecting this afternoon?
Well, it's supposed to be a protest any second, but these protesters are notoriously late. There we have a nice addition to the white marble.
Despite the NYPD guarding this marble structure,
Well,
there's
probably
more
happened at night.
anti-police graffiti there.
Did that happen last night?
We don't know when it happened. We just know it was a girl.
Sorry?
We just know it happened yesterday sometime.
Uh-huh. It's a real shame.
There's a lot of police guarding this statue for that type of thing to keep going on.
The protest is supposed to start at 3, I think, right?
I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
Let's delve into the park and see what's happening,
Okay.
Charles.
Stay safe.
You too.
Yeah, so this is over on the far side, and let's not get too close to them. I just don't want to get cooties. We have the beginning of a Black Lives Matter protest. We have the homeless people get ready to sleep on the right there, you see. And here's the art therapy department over there. You get chalk.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Let's not get too close
Okay,
over there.
sure. So no one's going to luckily trip on this. That's not
Of course, or
dangerous.
any of the other ones.
Old people walking around, little kids.
Yeah, and so you come in, Cats for Change, it says there.
Charles, I always am so frustrated by these people who claim to, they're doing this because they care about society, but right here on the ground in Washington Square Park, somebody even 40 trips on that and falls. They're going to break a wrist, break a knee. It could really impact their life in the near term.
Hey, you could write down Crowdsource the Truth here. Crowdsource the Truth was here.
Don't want to do that.
Don't want to do that?
I don't want to participate in this.
But this is, there's a guy with a big camera, a photographer.
Oh yeah.
And so people, I think, are expecting more of a protest, but I don't really see. Maybe we do one turn around.
Yeah, let's go around and take a look. I mean, the thing that I observed on my walk down here, Charles, and I've been saying this in all the outdoor videos I've been doing lately, just a visible, acceleration of the number of businesses closing.
Exactly. And then we have here, for some strange reason, they're allowing in a public park people to just come here and sell shit, which I was not aware that you could do that without a license in New York City.
Yeah.
But maybe some of it's good. I don't know. I mean, to each his own taste. But I mean, since when do you get to sell clothing in a public park?
Doesn't that undermine the people who are paying business tax and rent to sell clothing?
Would anyone do that anymore?
Wow.
I
mean, I guess if you're selling stolen counterfeit goods through a network of apparently gangsters, then it's okay.
Yeah, so it's a nice enough day. I mean, you got guys on a saxophone.
I love the saxophone. I always love the sound of the saxophone.
Is that like a bigger than normal sax? Right there?
I know very little about music, Charles. Maybe it's a soprano or a tenor. I don't even
You
know.
gotta do that. Don't they make you go? You got to pick an instrument. You got to pick. How are you going to put your movies together if you got no music?
You got to license it.
Okay.
or hire someone to make it.
And there's always, skateboards I think are amusing when you're 12 and 14. But when you see somebody who's pushing 30 on a skateboard, don't you ask yourself, do you have any alternative life plans? Because you got to start putting them together.
I don't mind people skateboarding irrespective of their age. We did a skateboard video with a really famous Danish skater who goes by one name that I can't remember that skateboard fans will know and to be mad at me for forgetting. And also Tony Hawk does a lot of stuff. I just don't like people doing that stuff in places where it's dangerous to other people and you're not supposed to do it.
Yeah.
Because you could hurt them.
Not good. Well, we do have some breaking news or news to break. That maybe we should tee off with that, because I think a lot has happened in the last 24, 48 hours while most people have been asleep and the mainstream media certainly has been asleep. Which direction shall we maybe go? Here's
Well,
somebody with a lot of cameras.
where? Oh yeah. Well, let's head down over this way so we can still keep eyes on the park
All right.
and maybe move away from some of the noise and activity, because this is huge, Charles. I mean, everybody's been thinking about and talking about these revelations that the New York Post and Rudy Giuliani have been bringing forward about Hunter Biden's involvement not only in smoking crack, but sending emails about business deals with
Right.
China, Ukraine, kicking money back to Joe Biden. I mean, this is damning evidence,
Right.
and there's been no evidence presented of these allegations against Donald Trump, and Twitter didn't remove anything from the New York Times or the Washington Post that was talking about all that stuff, did they?
Well, I'd go back to the very beginning. The pretense under which the Hunter Biden allegations were removed or censored on Twitter and Facebook was that the information was hacked. There's absolutely no proof of that. Indeed, there's evidence to the contrary presented by Steve Bannon and Giuliani and many others, including that a lawyer for Hunter Biden contacted either Giuliani or Bannon or the lawyer.
No, the reporter, the guy at the computer store. They wanted the computer.
Right, but they have evidence of that, both in an email and maybe one or more emails and other notes or whatever. So this information was certainly not hacked. It was, I believe, obtained lawfully because for some strange reason the crackhead didn't want to pick up his stuff after 90 days. I mean, there's no shock there. I mean, here's a guy who can't even remember to pick up property that is incredibly incriminating. What's that?
That's graffiti in the children's park. It looks like a chicken to me.
I don't know. So here's a guy can't remember to pick up this to guard this very sensitive information.
Or back it up and erase it before you bring it to get fixed.
Right. Or, here's a thought, let's not engage in this activity at all. Let's not do whatever it's alleged he may have been doing to children. But we learned in the last little while, supposedly there's a sticker on this laptop suggesting that it may be the property of the Beau Biden Foundation. Now, I don't know if maybe it's a decal for the Beau Biden Foundation. Beau, of course, is Hunter's deceased brother.
What about one of these kind of barcodes that organizations like that use to track their equipment?
Right, so, but we don't know the provenance, but this caused me to say, now wait a minute, Biden and Foundation, I knew they had a foundation, multiple Biden foundations. There's a cancer foundation. This one is the Beau Biden Foundation for the protection of children.
Well, let's examine the evidence right in front of the NYU Law School, Charles. We can add some
all right.
litigious
Mason to come
gravitas to this.
All right. We'll get some Perry Mason to come out.
Oh yeah, no. I thought we had an
this
audio.
right over here, you mean, or?
Well, this is fine, sure. This is part of the NYU Law School.
This is the NYU Law School.
Yeah.
Right. So, how would we do that, Jason? We don't have the ability, do we, to look at this evidence?
Well, it's interesting, Charles, because that sticker is what the owner of the Mac repair store in Maryland said first caused him to want to look at it, because all this news about Hunter Biden and Beau Biden and all that. So, yeah, so here at the NYU School of Law, we're going to present some interesting evidence. Now, Charles, you and I have spoken about the strange death of Vince Foster, written off by Hillary Clinton as a conspiracy theory. Obviously, the guy killed himself with a gun that wasn't his, according to his wife.
Right, in a park.
In a park where he's lying downhill and the blood running on his face is going in 4 different directions, including uphill in defiance of gravity.
It was very hepped up blood, it was really hot blood.
Yes, and of course, the 2 independent investigators, one a retired NYPD detective, homicide detective, one a U.S. Army investigator, collectively had investigated more than 30 gun-and-mouth suicides. Not one did the gun remain in the dead person's hand. But anyway, anything to do with Vince Foster is a conspiracy theory, and certainly the director of the FBI at the time, Louis Freeh, he failed to look into it, but this is the ProPublica entry for the Beau Biden Foundation for the Protection of Children. Charles.
You want to get what, a crackhead and somebody who would cheat on a crackhead with her brother-in-law?
Well, I don't know. Let's see who's on the board of directors, shall we, Charles?
Why don't we?
Yes. So here, I think it's on page 6 of this publicly available
There it is.
document. It's listed here. We've got Haley Biden, Ashley Biden, Hunter Biden, and then the Honorable Louis Freeh.
Yeah, now this is the ProPublica stuff we just noticed scant minutes ago, frankly, or maybe slightly more than an hour ago. I went back after we talked about this on telephone pre-show, and I looked at the 990s for 17, 18, and 16, 17, and 18. This thing was created, it would appear, after Joe Biden unceremoniously left the vice presidential residence as director of the Biden crime family and vice president of the United States for an 8-year term. So this is after he's left. He creates this thing, Beau Biden Foundation, for the protection of children. And I didn't realize that was the name of the foundation. But
I
then
don't know if he's the guy you want protecting your children.
with Hunter. Well, he was dead, so they
Right.
created this after his death to
I
carry
meant
on
Hunter, yeah.
to carry on his life's work. And so on the one hand, you have as co-chairs Hunter and somebody who clearly did not honor her dead husband very much.
Well, yes.
And then you have Hunter's, I guess, half-sister, Joe Biden's daughter by Jill Biden, who, if you look Ashley Biden up, you see that she's
Well, but isn't that the
drug
one
problems.
that Hunter was talking about when he wrote that text message that Giuliani
Might
just
well have
presented
been.
about sending her to college and paying for everything for the family for 30 years?
Right, but just to finish for a second, as in the case of almost every other fake charity that we've been talking about for almost 4 years now,
Wait, so these guys are eyeballing us, and that's the second time I've seen them. That dude wearing the choke sweatshirt.
okay.
Sorry.
That's right. Yeah, and here are the guys who are passing out stickers looking to get contributions. They were on the other side of it.
Right, these guys are scoping out the park and figuring out what's going on.
But let me just, if I can,
Please.
finish the thought, which is that this is the choke point, one choke point to the entrance of the park, right? You've got this blocked off, and you've got people standing here getting ready, perhaps, to stop people from following other people should there be a big demonstration. But like all the other fake charities that we've identified, this one is supposedly a public charity, meaning that it cannot be controlled by any family. Yet it would appear that this Beau Biden Foundation for the Protection of Children, and I'm very sure I would not want Hunter Biden trying to protect any children. But the only person I'd want less to protect children would be Hillary and Bill Clinton, or maybe Jeffrey Epstein. So
But that's very relevant. I mean, these people claim to be protecting children. Yesterday, Alex Jones did a broadcast alleging there's evidence of child abuse on the laptop. We'll see if that proves to be true.
Right. And so then you look at this and you say, in the beginning, when I heard about the FBI, I always had this vision of the FBI being an organization that specialized in investigations, not failing to do investigations, or worse, burying anything that might be of potential interest.
Failure to begin investigations could be the new name of it.
Right. So when I noticed then that Louis Freeh had been on the board of this thing all of 17, all of 18, all of 19, I guess he's still on the board now. It was in 19, and I tweeted out one of these stories that there's some story that Hunter Biden, it's the title of this one, Hunter Biden fathered child with somebody while still carrying on with Haley Biden.
That was the stripper at Washington, D.C. strip club who now is suing him in Arkansas.
Right. So DNA evidence proves. This is April 19. So while they're putting this 990 together in 19 for 18, Hunter's carrying on with the stripper, was carrying on with Beau Biden's widow, and they're running a public charity to protect
crazy.
children. I mean, it's like, what do you do next? You say, well, look, we're going to create a charity to protect firefighters, and on the board we're going to put the arsonists and bomb makers.
Well, how about a charity to combat drug abuse and make him in charge of that?
Yeah, a charity to combat drug abuse. It'll be a real bipartisan thing. We'll get the Colombian drug people, the Mexican drug people, and maybe throw in the Italian drug people too. And, It's ridiculous. And so how does Louis Freeh, did he not go to a single meeting? How did he decide to go and get involved with these Bidens?
I've always had a lot of questions about Louis Freeh since the failure to investigate the strange death of Vince Foster. And you know, Charles, there's somebody who has appeared on the show quite a lot who's a big fan of Louis Freeh. And this is the same person who initially told me to pay attention to the information from our friend, the Falconer. Whoops. I was talking, of course, about former FBI agent Robin Gritz. Now, Robin really loved Louis Freeh. She loved Robert Mueller. When I've asked her about those things, the questions have not really been answered too clearly. And I mean, again, a lot of people misunderstood what I was saying about that Falconer who claims to have information about bin Laden and Extortion 17. I'm not saying that what he's saying isn't true or could be correct. I'm just saying it's really weird that it came out a couple days now before this explosive Hunter Biden information.
Right.
And it was immediately used by the Daily Beast to smear the president as a conspiracy theory. The Daily Beast is owned by Interactive Corporation that you and I have spoken about quite a lot with Barry Diller.
Right. Who's on the board of Barry Diller's company?
Chelsea Clinton, and they also control Vimeo, which shut down my Vimeo channel almost simultaneous with the release of that Daily Beast article smearing the president for following the Falconer article, and they shut down the video that Mike Moore and I put on there saying that it might be false. Yes, luckily we've been able to post it on banned.video, BANNED.video. People can see. 30,000 people have seen that video now on InfoWars Banned Video. And thanks to Alex Jones for letting us post that. But there's something going on, Charles.
Well, when we look at this tale that I guess came to light first on Thursday, Friday, the allegation is that on this laptop, this hard drive rather, there are, Bannon just this morning, American time, there was a broadcast from Australia where he claimed that there are 25,000 images.
That's a lot.
Of Hunter Biden, many of them selfies, proving that he's been, using crack, maybe doing disgusting things with underage people. And my big question on all this is not simply, how disgusting is this? Is what was the freaking FBI doing when they first received word of this issue? How come they didn't immediately take possession of the
But you know what, Sarah, you're right.
of the item and then study it carefully? Let's get past this. And because it's going to be loud.
I know.
Yeah. And why didn't they run this down a long time ago? I mean, I believe, from memory, the father of the shopkeeper approached the FBI in, I think, New Mexico, and so earlier in 2019, I want to say April, May 2019, then there was an interlude, and they ultimately didn't take possession of it until November, December 19, which is just in the heat of the impeachment trial, under false pretenses, I might add, of Donald Trump. With a lot of information here, Donald Trump was warning about what was going on in Ukraine, pointing out suspicions that there could have been untoward activity dating way back to the point when Joe crooked crime family
What's going on there?
It's probably just somebody singing. Anyway, when he was point person on sorting out Ukraine, and when he supposedly threatened the Ukrainian government, that is to say, Biden threatened the Ukrainian government that they wouldn't get their $1 billion loan guarantee unless Ukraine shut down an investigation.
Well, he admitted to doing that.
Well, he bragged about it.
Right.
So, this is experimental. I don't know what that is. This is your alma mater.
That's the Maison des Étudiants or something, the Maison Française.
All right.
French Cultural NYU Center.
So, I know if I were to walk around the Yale or Harvard campus today, I probably wouldn't recognize anything either, because it's changed so much since I was there. But anyway, it strikes me that if you're going to go for the third time in American history down a track where you're going to where you do impeach and then you attempt to convict the president, you should give the president the courtesy of
having evidence.
Well, on the allegation, and if there's exculpatory evidence, you ought to share that with the president's team. Instead, what did the FBI do under Christopher Wray?
Buried it.
Buried it, and they're still burying it. And Ron Johnson, who is not a hot-tempered individual as far as I can tell, he was really outraged this morning on what I hear of the Sunday Morning Future Show with Maria Bartiromo. So, because the FBI under Wray has been denying all kinds of requests, all kinds of requests for information for some time. That's crucial to understanding the Clinton Foundation. It's crucial to understanding what happened with impeachment, how the Russian hoax got started, and Wray's just been sitting on this. And now we learn that Louis Freeh played at least some sort of oversight role of a public charity that had possession of this hard drive, which people have been studying. And what does Freeh do? Does he just show up and collect backhanders? I mean, for how long has the leadership of the FBI been compromised?
Well, it's a good question, Charles, because we should also add that, when Bill Clinton fired William Sessions, Louis Freeh's predecessor, that was the first time in U.S. history that a president had ever fired an FBI director, and the reasons for his firing were never made clear. It wasn't the kind of situation. Maybe he was the one guy who was actually going to investigate Vince Foster and other stuff, and so he had to get out of there, bring in Louis Freeh. He's intermediate, making sure nothing goes down with Vince Foster while they find somebody who can cover up the even bigger 9/11, and that's Robert Mueller.
Right. Yeah, I think there's so much that has so much unplowed ground. And the standard defense when you get close is, it's a conspiracy theory. It's been debunked in the debunked bed.
And that's why I've been so hard on this Falcon story, because the way it works is you get very close to an extremely important story, and then you crap it up with nonsense.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking Falcon Man might be either taken for a ride in that regard or part of the riding mechanism. Because I don't know that he's necessarily revealed anything that the president doesn't already know about.
Right.
And it seems remarkable the timing at which it came out relative to the Beau Biden evidence. And it's curious to me that they would select this person that they've selected to disseminate the information rather than going to a well-known journalist.
Right, and then when we go, staying for a second on narrowly the Hunter Biden story, the Post tries to put it out. Immediately it gets the equivalent of canceled. Twitter, as I understand it, it was either Thursday or Friday night, briefly entire Twitter in America, I don't know about what, shut down.
Outage of some kind, and then somebody tried to log into my Twitter account from Oxford, England, when it came back online.
And then
I had to change the password.
Wow. And then what they did, now what they've done most recently is they've said, all right, New York Post, we're going to unblock your account if you take down the articles.
But they haven't challenged the veracity of anything.
Well, my point is that who the hell, excuse my language, I know people are not going to like this one, but who the fuck does this idiot Dorsey think he is? Right? I mean, you don't sit on top of all government in the world because you've created this Silicon Valley thing that's made you a billionaire. You have to follow the law. And you don't have the right to just arbitrarily take sides at the crucial final two and a half week period in a national election in the biggest country on earth by GDP. You don't have the right to suddenly make gigantic subsidized contributions to the Biden non-campaign by squelching inquiry into this information. You certainly are not a neutral platform.
Well, right. It's beyond squelching, because Charles, everything that they're saying, they don't want stolen material. Well, why didn't they stop all these reports about Trump's taxes?
Right.
I mean, is this closed? It is. So there's a lot of stuff closed along here. This was some big Vietnamese restaurant.
I think it's just closed for Sunday, maybe.
But why would they do that? This is,
I don't know.
They don't have tables set up out here.
Sorry,
like
we are permanently closed.
I think that's right. Oh yeah, it says. Sorry. Right. I mean,
this was a great place. We used to come here twice a month.
I don't think I've ever eaten in there, but
it's good food. It was.
I mean, there's a huge number of places closing everywhere. Meanwhile, Twitter is trying to tell you, don't look over here. Charles, how could there remain anybody who does not see the naked partisanship, the obvious lying, the obvious manipulation
of both Facebook and Twitter and Google, for
Right.
that matter. You know, so there's a set of issues around that. Now, I watched and you watched Giuliani's thing, and he had another interview on Daily Caller, which I didn't really like the interview terribly much. Then he
No.
went on, and Bannon's had quite a few different appearances. And Bannon's latest one in Australia, he was explaining that he's following the path that the Breitbart taught him about, which I had heard about and used as well. That is, you publish something.
drip, drip.
Well, you publish something, you wait for the other side to lie,
Right.
and then you prove them in a lie, and you just destroy their credibility. Now, I don't think Biden has any credibility at this point. No member of the Biden family. Least of all, Jill Biden. Yeah, how do you stay married? How do you willingly embrace this family of crackheads?
It's just,
And she's a doctor. I know she's not a medical doctor. She's a
and I mean, listen,
Bill
let's
Cosby
just be
doctor.
clear to people who may have individuals in their families with drug problems. It's a big problem, and I don't blame, wow, this is out. I don't blame Joe Biden for it. Let's just take a step back for a moment, because Hunter Biden has had a very difficult life. To be a young child, to be in that kind of traumatic accident, lose his mother, I understand.
And sister.
And sister. This is a guy who's got a lot of problems, who may never recover properly from that, may never lead a quote-unquote normal life.
May?
But, I mean, I'm just saying, there's a way for, even in his adult life, for his parents and his family to deal with him. And if you know he's got drug problems and other problems, I don't think sending him to foreign countries to deal with the most notorious criminals there is the smart thing to do. I blame Joe Biden for all this.
Well, I'd say to be a public, quote, servant, the way he supposedly is, Biden, is actually an incredibly selfish thing under the circumstances. You know, he entered political life just with this accident. He had the young family. He gets further and further out there. He starts, it would seem, taking all kinds of bribes and influence peddling. That's Joe. I could understand. I spent time with one person, traveling with one person who was the son of a president, and that person complained in the course of a longer period than 8 years, let's say that person could have done what Hunter did and only went on one trip. So how does Hunter go on more than 400 trips?
Wow. These are acid trips or actual
Air Force
trips?
Two trips. You know, doesn't somebody in the Obama administration say, you know, Hunter's probably done enough traveling, you know?
He doesn't even have an official appointment. Why is he able to travel on Air Force Two at all? Hang on.
Let's not get involved with these people. But we can keep going, but I just don't
Oh,
want
you
to
want to go up into the park here?
Yeah.
He died for everybody. He saved my life. He saved me. He can send you. He's no big thing to prove.
I'm not sure what she's talking
Let's
about.
talk about Hunter.
What did she say?
He's smoking this, he's smoking that.
Forever 21 is closed, Charles. I don't even know what that is.
It's a clothing store. Was a clothing store. So, I actually do blame the Biden family, in particular Joe Biden. You get to a point when you're a parent, if it's particularly he was the sole blood parent of the various children, and you should, I mean, it'd be one thing if Joe Biden were freaking Thomas Jefferson, you know, writing the Declaration of Independence, coming up with all great, so many great things. This guy is a bonehead. And you can't, over the course of his 47 years, Trump is fond of saying he did more in 47 months than Biden did in 47 years.
I think it's true.
I think a chicken waking up out of an egg will do more in a second.
Less harm.
More of anything. I mean, name one piece of legislation the guy's got across the
Well,
line.
yeah, I
as a
thought he
senator.
was involved in the crime bill.
Yeah, right. Name one good piece of legislation that people on the left, because in theory he's the most progressive candidate out there. Remember when he said that this year? And
I don't know what he's talking
trying
about.
to burnish his progressive credentials? Name one thing he's ever done. that you should be proud of.
So it doesn't look like there's a lot of activity here today.
This is the enthusiasm. I don't know if you saw, in the last little while, there were several rallies 2 days ago. I think there were 2 in Florida, 1 in Georgia. Yesterday there was 1 in Wisconsin, 1 in Michigan, where a 74-year-old man, Trump, recently in the hospital for 4 days, held court, tens of thousands of people. That's enthusiasm and spirit you see out in the campaign trail, but for Bite Me and his people, you see nothing.
And you know, Charles, people are actually raising the good point that we've got this Protect the Children Beau Biden Foundation, but is it protect them so that Joe can sniff them?
And Joe and, it would seem, Hunter, more than sniff, worse than sniff.
And you know what? After I read that I saw that video from Alex Jones and read the article, I went back and watched some more Rudy Giuliani stuff, and when he says it's disgusting and he can't describe it,
well,
it kind of puts a new angle on that. It gives you a better understanding of what he might be talking about.
Well, I think the reason he's saying it's disgusting and he can't describe it is because some of the images themselves are just
not going to be able to be shown.
No, it's worse than that. Possessing those images is a crime.
Right.
It's not simple, and maybe, I don't know, talking about them is or isn't a crime, but so.
And what happens if you're a lawyer, though, investigating that? I mean, the cops look at it. I mean, that's such an unusual situation, but the guy who was interviewing for Daily Caller was like, why don't you give it to us? Give us the evidence.
Right.
It's like, Giuliani's not going to
fall for that.
Disrupt his investigation for this 30-year-old dope from Tucker Carlson's thing.
Tucker's out of there now.
Oh, okay. Well, that would explain why they have that dope. So, Charles, look at this. This is the Union Square Savings Bank, which, as far as I know, is converted to
it's defunct.
theater.
Defunct. No longer. It's not even debunked. It's defunct.
But it was a theater where I saw that thing, La Fuega. What was it called? Where they jump around from the ceiling, and it was a really interesting show in there. People will remember maybe in the comments.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
No, it's called something Spanish. I forget the name of it, but it was a very cool show. And then now I think it's totally closed, and it's got that big Black Lives Matter thing in front of it.
No. So now this is yet another park, Union Square, and actually I don't see it being very busy.
Nope. But
So-
you know, they had that scheduled protest at 3 o'clock. I don't know if they really start on time or what.
Yeah. You want to go back that? Walk around?
No,
back there?
let's just keep walking around, and if we encounter a protest, we will.
Yeah, we'll hear a helicopter.
Yeah.
There's another big place for sale, for rent rather. So I think where we are, though, in contrasting the Biden non-campaign with the Trump actual campaign, I think despite the worst efforts of Facebook, Google, Twitter, and the lamestream press to tilt the playing field aggressively in the wrong direction, there is no enthusiasm, even in the Biden family, for Joe Biden. In fact, I would bet there are people in the Biden family who are like, you know, we don't want this guy to kill himself, you know, in the White House. He's not going to be able to function.
No.
So
how's he going to be able to survive until tomorrow? How will this campaign continue tomorrow?
well, he's supposedly not going to campaign again until he's not going to appear until Thursday now.
That's when the debate is?
Well, I don't think there's going to be a debate. I mean,
Just first question, Hunter Biden. Oh, come on, man.
I
knew
think
you would ask that.
If I were Trump, every single answer, you want to go up Broadway?
Sure.
Every single answer I would key on this. Because this, and Bannon was just hammering it. Bannon was saying, as he rightly should, and Giuliani, there is no way with what we know now in these allegations that may not already be proven, frankly, because we haven't been cross-checking things, whereas Giuliani and others have been.
Right.
There is no way that Joe Biden could pass a security clearance test.
Oh, because of all the corruption
No way.
and compromise by
There's
China.
no way. Well, I mean, you're going to have to now forget the top layers of the FBI. You're going to have to find there surely are very competent forensic accountants who don't have to do much. I went and looked at Biden's 18 tax return submitted in 19 tax return, which is up online, I think, 18 or 19, at joebiden.dunscom. And it shows $10,000 of charitable contributions with no explanation as to who they may be, what entity received them. And
The cops are ready for something, Charles.
yeah, and the thing of it is, Jason, we know from these Hunter Biden emails that tens of millions of dollars and more must have been flowing towards accounts in some ways connected to Joe Biden.
Tax fraud.
That level of money doesn't show up in the Biden tax return. So you have a whole bevy of questions that would be asked. And we think about what happened when the FBI went after Manafort.
Yes,
break down.
foreign agent.
Yeah, they break down his door and terrorize him and his family, steal all his computers and devices, analyze all that, and conclude he's got a problem because he didn't disclose his landscaping expenses or something like that. I mean, which were actually pretty crazy.
You know what else occurred to me, Charles? There's another guest that we had on that this might have affected. Well, that I had on.
Who's that?
Well, when I interviewed Bernard Kerik, people might recall that in addition to being the commissioner of the NYPD and a variety of other things, he was made the interior minister of Iraq. And if
Right.
he knew about Joe Biden's brother's deals or whatever, and perhaps wasn't playing along in whatever way they may have wanted him to, could that be a reason why he landed in jail? I asked him if he would run for mayor, and his response was that he's not interested in getting involved in politics. I wonder why that is.
Exactly. That's why the best people don't get involved.
That's
in
right,
politics.
because they get slammed and put in jail.
Right.
Here, this is out.
What's that?
I think it was a hamburger place.
Roast kitchen. Yeah.
Roast chicken, something like that, yeah.
So yeah, I think the Biden campaign imploded on Friday, basically.
Yes.
And they don't want to admit it yet. And we'll see what Kamala Harris decides to do. Because her husband, we're talking about China and the Bidens, but her husband is a partner at DLA Piper, which is the firm that was hired in quotes to clear the Clinton Foundation in November of 2015 and certainly screwed that job up. Or maybe thought they did it right. That law firm, all these big law firms have many clients, but that law firm represented Laureate in an IPO which should never have happened because it was so bad. The disclosures were so woefully inadequate. My goodness, everything. Look at it. Be Brooks Brothers there.
Right.
Then that's gone.
Well, and this was Walgreens.
Which was?
Or Dwayne Reed, that right there.
Uh-huh.
So that's out, that's out. I mean, it's more than 50% on this block. I've just been looking at the number of blocks that have more than 50% of the businesses on them closed.
And there's that theater.
Well, this is a terrible theater. I don't know how this has stayed open even when movies were in business.
Yeah. So, and DLA Piper, it turns out also, as many of these big firms do, also represented or represents Chinese companies, possibly companies that are controlled by the Chinese government or influenced by the Chinese military. So, I think there's a chain that's around the country called Trader Joe, and I think that would be spelled T-O-R in the case of Joe Biden. And now we go back over his long and storied career at the Foreign Relations Chair in the Senate, and a guy, not Bill Gates, but another Gates, Robert Gates, who was in the Obama cabinet as defense chair, in his defense secretary, in his book, he pointed out that Joe Biden has gotten every major decision he made in foreign policy wrong in the course of a 47-year career. I mean, that's valuable. If somebody always is wrong, you definitely want to get close to that person because that
Do the
person,
opposite.
exactly, and somebody who's always right. There are very few people who are always right, but if you're always right, or you're right 98% of the time, you're going to be arrogant, and you may make a lot of money, and
I think this
you're
is
not going to
close,
listen
too.
to other people, and you're going to talk down to everybody. But if you're always wrong, or mostly always wrong, evidently you enter a career in politics where you just do the bidding of credit card companies and foreign entities and set up your various drug-afflicted and other afflicted children and stepchildren, whatever, to grift off your public office. I mean, this is not a minor set of offenses. It's just School of Clinton.
It's unprecedented,
got
though.
school-
This is beyond what's going on with Hunter Biden. I mean, we never had this kind of prima facie evidence of compromise. I mean, direct to the guy who's running for president. It's unprecedented, isn't it,
No,
Charles?
I mean the Clintons. I mean, let's go back to Hillary Clinton's history. Supposedly, she slowed down a year so she could graduate with Bill at Yale Law School, but this chronology suggests she took 4 years to get to a program that normally takes 3 years. What did she do in one of the off years? She worked for the Children's Defense Fund. And that's been her whole shtick.
What is that, children's
It's
defense?
supposedly it's similar to this Biden thing. You evoke vulnerable children. You say, I'm the wise and caring, good actor who's going to make sure that these vulnerable kids are going to be well looked after. When in reality, it is vulnerable children, particularly children, let's say, orphans or who don't have family members, nobody to stand up for them. These are precisely the type of people that ghouls ravage. And I think we ought to change. We go through this experience. We've had several years now, going back to the Podesta WikiLeaks thing, where we talked about Pizzagate and things like that, where you bring that kind of stuff up, Nexium or whatever, and instantly it's
Debunked, discredited.
Right, exactly. And I think we need to have a real team of experts appointed with authority to get back into all this, and the understanding that should any ghouls end up on the team trying to cover stuff up, the penalty for that is going to be a slow and painful death, not 10 years in prison. The kind of thing where you strap them up to a waterboard, bring him to near death, and then bring him back to life and do that for 40 years.
Wow. Well, they could send them to the Ritz-Carlton in Saudi Arabia. They have a good program there.
Well, or they could, what would be really bad is you could put them into a marble room and you could force them to listen to Hillary Clinton's books on tape with somebody else in a chalkboard. And you could have a debate whether nails on chalkboard are worse than listening to Hillary Clinton's books.
But look at
Read
this,
her own
Charles.
books.
They've got Broadway closed for some unknown reason.
They do this on Sundays.
Oh, okay. When did they start that?
A while back, to encourage people to walk around to the non-stores and pretend that they're non-shopping.
Should turn off the police and break every store and encourage people to walk around.
Right. So now we're back into the Madison Park, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's interesting to, revisit these places, see, this Paper Source has a store on Fifth Avenue. That's interesting that they remain open with, let's face it, not necessary items. Like if you're worried about how you're going to pay your rent and get food, I don't know if you're buying
Hallmark cards.
Yeah,
Is this where we get cut out on 23rd Street?
I hope not.
Because
It's a huge pain when the broadcast gets cut off.
so do you want to go up Madison then a little bit over to?
I think we've done that quite a few times. Let's go up Fifth Avenue. There was a number of things I was observing there.
Okay.
And actually Broadway over here.
We-
This is what I was observing. So yesterday I went
You go up Broadway, you mean?
Yeah, let's go up Broadway because it's getting dangerous over there. And what's happening is all the businesses are closing, right? So there's just less people around. And
Sure.
I think something that a lot of people don't understand about New York, people just think like, oh, it's a big city, it's dangerous. Part of the reason why New York was so safe was that there was just always so many people
Right.
around, and the notion that it was super likely that anybody would see you doing something deterred a lot of people from doing anything criminal.
How do you spell that? D-E-T-U-R-D?
Deterred. It's
Well,
the
that's- you're
Italian
bringing up-
spelling. D''turd.
You're bringing up Biden again.
Yes. Oh, that would be the French spelling.
So we're
sorry.
going that way?
Yeah. But the
1,000
point is, I
generations
was
of-
walking, and
Yeah.
it was so everything closed that there were like drug deals happening. Guy
Sure.
with a huge wad of bills, peeling off bills, handing them to the guy. It
Crack
just
pipes going.
felt very dangerous just being around over there.
Kind of like here. To your right.
Well, yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying.
Right up there.
The more we have, derelict areas and things that are not in business, and police that are not carrying out their regular duty, the more dangerous it becomes. I'm becoming just very kind of aware that the notion of New York City becoming a financially unviable entity, it seems close.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at that tarp there, and the blue one, and the green one there. What's that all about? Dead ahead.
Yeah.
On the bench, and you end up with these collection of people who park their garbage on the street and live under those tarps. You know?
That's breeding disease, isn't it?
We go this way.
Yeah.
Staying away from that. Yeah, I mean, we're supposed to wear face masks to stop the spread, but it's quite okay to have lice-infected people do their business on the sidewalk.
Right.
Here we're giving people a shot up Fifth Avenue.
It's a nice day again.
It is indeed. It's surprisingly nice. Here's a bike that actually has the right of way.
So what else, Charles? What other big news? I mean, that's kind of the biggest news around.
Well, we're going to see more drops. Giuliani in his lengthy interviews is claiming that he talked about just 5 major deals, 4 or 5 major deals. He said there are many, many more. As of Friday, Saturday, they had only reviewed 12%, let's go up that way, 12% of, 25% rather, of the laptop. And in my experience looking at Wikipedia or the Clinton Foundation, very frequently, you can't just go.
Details.
You can't just go over the 100%. You gotta sometimes in a footnote or in an attachment, or you'll see a reference to a memo that's missing in the file, and out of all that will come the real scandal. So the place I'd start here is there have to be a lot of bank accounts. Hunter has them. Beau had them. His wife, various wives had them. Girlfriends had them, strippers had them, mistresses had them, kids had them.
Strippers usually deal in cash, though.
Right, but so you start there, and you say, I want a list of all these bank accounts. And I don't know if politicians in the Senate have to disclose all of their specific bank details, stock brokerage accounts and other things in which they have a financial interest of any kind. If it is not required, it should be required. And it should be a hanging offense that if you fail to disclose it, and it's ultimately discovered that you're hiding stuff, that all your assets are stolen, not just, go to pay down this massive debt that our politicians in both parties have piled on us now. So I'd be starting there with Biden, and I've got to believe, I'm no expert on responding to disasters, but this was a major, epic disaster, and there's been really no effective effort yet to try to counter it, and a lot of time has passed since Thursday.
Right.
You would think there'd be some sort of credible argument. The idea that they tried the standard, of course, to get shifty Adam Schiff. Oh, this is a Russian disinformation campaign.
It's ridiculous.
And they tricked Giuliani.
And people believe that. Yeah, no, well, this is what I was talking about, is that we're now entering, and we've been on this street before, Charles, but I'm telling you,
right.
I just was walking 28th, 29th. It is sketchy as sketchy can be.
Right, and it is October, 18th?
Yeah.
And I remember when I had property upstate, October 4th, 1987. I remember there was 18 inches of snow overnight, 100 miles from here. You can't count that your restaurant will be able to serve outdoors for much longer.
No, definitely not.
And maybe that costs nothing to put that up, but a certain amount of effort was made into it. And how do you plan?
Not nothing. Each one of those tents must cost several hundred, if not more.
And the labor to put them up,
right.
and then take them down. And
look at this across the street.
Yeah.
All these places closed.
Yeah. And how do you plan the forthcoming week? I mean, how many, I think the phrase is in the restaurant business, how many covers, how many people are going to come and sit down? Why would you want to go out and sit next to somebody in a plexiglass divider? I mean, I think rather than waste money on paying, say, 2 to 4 times what a bottle of wine might cost in a liquor store, why wouldn't you make whatever you could get at the Smith at home, and stay home and buy a big flat screen TV and upgrade your Netflix account or whatever you use.
Not Netflix, some other account.
So whatever you
subscribe to Crowdsource the Truth
true.
and sit home and crowdsource and chill. But Charles, that's places out of business there. The ground floor restaurant and the Broadway Hotel. That's surprising to some extent.
Yeah.
A lot of places down these side streets closed. This is also an area where a lot of these shops are kind of like selling like perfume and
Drugs.
well, I don't know about that, but there's a certain type of shop that sells like designer perfume and
Right.
Louis Vuitton bags, and I believe that it's like counterfeit or gray market or something.
Counterfeit Louis Vuitton merchandise in New York?
But I mean, they sort of seem like they're staging areas for some of these street vendors that we've been seeing all over the place. And I mean, look, Charles, this entire block is out. Every single retail store there is out.
Right, and what you like to see when the existing building stock is not filled up, what you really like to see if you're an owner of real estate is a brand new building coming in with no tenants. Because that does wonders for the lease rates.
Older places.
Yeah, I mean, that's really going to help this area.
I just was shocked at the number of business. You get all these Clover, trading,
Right.
importer, wholesaler, costume jewelry. Like, what are those places all about?
Probably laundering money.
I think that's right. It could be. So, you know,
So we have the non-debate coming up on Thursday, and I gotta believe we're gonna hear somebody is gonna have COVID. Biden has stupid, but and crooked. But as a guest, the handlers are gonna say, find some pretext to say we can't do this
can't
debate.
do it because of COVID.
Whatever the pretext is, you know. Trump is clearly a conspiracy theorist, and I'm not going to waste time with a conspiracy theorist trying to talk about smears that are unfounded based on hacked information. And Chuck Toad he outdid himself today.
What did he do?
He had that idiot governor of Michigan on, Gretchen Whitmer.
Oh, yeah. With
And-
the fake plan to kidnap her?
Well, and he said it's outrageous, the court decision that is being cited that reduced your executive power. That court decision is not based on a single legal opinion.
What?
Well, of course, it's totally untrue. It's like a 49 or 59 page opinion.
It's probably
Replete-
citing a million
I know.
different case law things.
And this Chuck Toad guy, I mean, what is the basis for him to be in front of a television camera? He's an idiot. And he's an arrogant idiot to boot.
I think he says what they want him to say, and then they give him an Emmy. He's won an Emmy, hasn't he?
Probably. He's won a dummy, that's for sure.
Yeah, he could win a dummy. The Dummy Awards. That's a whole new parody gift show for me to come out with.
There you go.
Award show.
Here's some music.
I like it. Afro funk.
Casa Nomad.
But see, they're able to do this because all of these businesses they've set up the tents in front of are closed. So they've got like a 1 week long street party, and then what's going on here?
They're practicing.
It's the New York Philharmonic bandwagon, Charles.
Yeah?
This is the New York Philharmonic. It's been
If this
reduced.
is the New York Philharmonic, then we got other problems.
They're on AstroTurf.
Look, if you're really in the New York Philharmonic, what the hell are you doing on 30th Street and Broadway in the middle of a slum? Right?
It's not a slum. This is my neighborhood.
Well, this part
It's
of
a
it.
it's a newly minted slum. I mean, this is almost certainly. What is this going to be? An office building, or this is more of a residential area?
Could be. It was going to
Or
be
a
in
hotel?
theory a condo before we decoupled with the Chinese Communist Party, and all those people fleeing are not going to be coming to the United States with the money they don't have.
Bitcoin is up.
Well, that's good.
I mean, but is that here? Look, that's out of business. That corner. That was what was that?
I don't know.
Beer place or something? I forget what that
No
was.
clue.
It's hard to remember what all these closed places were.
So we have lots of campaign stops for Trump, and we've got Biden not coming out of his basement until Thursday, maybe. And the election is 2 weeks from Tuesday.
I really think the smartest thing for Biden to do right now would be like,
Beg for mercy.
I was going to say fake his own death. That's the way he
Pull a
doesn't
DB Cooper.
have to testify.
Yeah, DB Cooper. Go out of the Pacific Northwest and
Just jump out of a 727.
Yeah.
That would be a combination of DB Cooper and George H.W. Bush at this point. Didn't he, for his 80th birthday, jump out of an airplane?
I think in 85th as well. Yeah. We've had a great crew of presidents.
I wish I could have been in charge of packing that parachute, Charles.
Packing that chute. Packing the Bush chute.
It's like, oh, whoops. So here's another thing for rent.
Wow.
So if you need watch batteries or stolen goods, you're going to have to shop somewhere else. Yeah, so we're getting close to the area where my glasses place is that I was
that
at.
right?
Well, that's why I was walking through here kind of close to the end of the day yesterday and saw all that stuff.
These guys doing? It's like they're
Right, so
trading
here-
bits and pieces of perfume they stole from other stores. or
Right,
something.
that's what I mean. There's this sort of network of vendors that seem to hang out. Some of them are starting to recognize me, I believe. That's closed.
Yeah.
This is closed. Nomad Tower.
Yeah. Well, I suppose what we could do is we could go up to 42nd Street and then down 7th or something.
Sure.
How are we on time?
Well, we were at just about an hour. Let's see what some of the comments say, Charles.
All right.
So it's Michelle and Hollywood are all coming out to support Joe, but I don't understand how they can deny this evidence. Like
Who's coming out to support Joe?
Michelle Obama and Hollywood,
Right.
and people are now saying that bacteria on the mask is causing facial irritation. I heard that bacterial lung infections were possible from the
Right.
masks.
Careful.
And I mean, traditionally, what
Just
I've
go right
heard
over here for a second.
from doctors is that you don't take any kind of. That guy was kind of eyeballing us, wasn't he?
You just came right around the corner out of the
With
subway.
his Guy Fawkes mask and some kind of stupid hand signal.
Yeah.
Oh, look, and he's hanging out with all of those guys.
Let's not antagonize
Well,
them.
we just get them on camera, so if they decide they want to charge at us right now. He ain't charging it nothing. See, they got people installed all across the place who understand what's going on around, Charles.
Right.
That guy was listening to the conversation. He's in communication with those guys over there.
Right.
There's something happening all around us that's not entirely
Is it not good?
clear yet.
Uh-huh. Little Trumpo. Not good.
Yeah, not good is right.
So we're now getting close to Macy's. Thankfully, I bought some stock a while back in Macy's, far less than 19. It went up to 19. I sold it around there. It's currently around 6 or 7.
Whoa, the stock?
Yeah.
I mean, how can a place like that stay in business?
It won't. If you get below 5 on a large company stock, chances are you're heading for the toilet bowl, as Archie Bunker would say.
Yeah.
Because at below $5 a share, the big institutions, it used to be they couldn't invest in those type of stocks, so they start dumping. And you have a big turnover in the type of person who's buying. And most people don't get that retail chains are already extremely highly leveraged. Retail chains have, when you sign a lease, terms of the lease so favor the landlord that most store owners with stars in their eyes say, well, will this Victoria's Secret, who's not going to buy lingerie, this is going to work, we'll roll it out to 300 places. And they don't realize that with regard to every store here, this used to be Gap.
It's closed.
I don't know how many Gap stores are still open.
There's a gap in the.
There's a gap in demand.
Well,
Gap.
although I will say I have seen a number of lines outside stores today. They were all clothing stores, which seems strange.
I mean, look at the Victoria's Secret. That's a lovely
Well, it's been
store.
boarded up.
But look at what's happened now on the wood. At the bottom of it, people have
graffiti.
on the plywood. They've put some junk basically all over. These are stuff they're trying to sell.
Oh, they're selling it out in front of Victoria's Secret.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. All of these rogue, illegal businesses have sprung up while the legitimate tax-paying businesses that employ people and actually pay designers for their items rather than counterfeiting them or stealing them otherwise,
Right.
they're going out of business while criminal enterprises are thriving.
Right.
And Cuomo is busy telling everybody to wear masks, that the cases are increasing while they're testing people with a test that the New York Times told us is 90% false positive. I don't know if that's true, but that's what the New York Times said.
If the Times said it, it's certainly not entirely true, but it makes sense to me that if you're in a position where the elites want to shut the country down on the basis of a pandemic, how very simple to calibrate the test so that it gives false positives. I mean, I'm pretty suspicious, for example, in Trump's case, a guy who himself would admit that he has some extra pounds, and he's 74, and he supposedly wasn't feeling well, and he checked himself into a hospital. 4 days later, he's cured. You know, there's something wrong with that. Either
COVID's not that bad, or
right. Well, I think that's what the math has been telling you and me since March. That we didn't sign into the model that said you should shut the world down.
No.
Now the cases are coming out. I mean, the math is coming out. There are many more cases, not that many fatalities that are due to COVID. And it seems that this COVID thing is pretty similar to normal flu, and something that normal flu we haven't ever. Even in 1918, I don't know for certain, but I doubt back then that they aggressively shut.
you'd know about it if they
Right.
did. Should we go that way?
Yeah. So now we're going into the Garmento district, right? This is
Yeah.
textile apparel land in here.
We haven't ever really spoken about this. There's a lot of weird stuff around New York. What is this?
Never heard of it.
James Gordon Bennett.
Founder of the New York Herald. New York Herald. It's newspaper stuff.
Well, I mean, it begs the question, or at least raises the topic. I didn't realize that the New York Post had the 4th largest circulation in America, but Twitter obviously just decided that they were wrong and shut it down without any
Right.
countermanding evidence.
Because Dorsey woke up and he feels that he can do anything he wants, because that's what history has shown. He can run 2 companies at once, 2 public companies at once.
Other people do that, though.
No, I mean, if you had,
I don't understand how they can do it.
I would argue that, again, if we're in the business of trying to make sure that we increase employment in the private sector, I would argue that if you're simultaneously running 2 public companies at once, there should be special penalties if you harm either company. And if you start taking unfair compensation from either company or any company, again, there should be special penalties that attach.
Do you have a clear picture of how Twitter makes any money?
Advertising. In theory.
I have never seen an ad on there.
Well, I mean, that's in theory how they do it. I don't know in practice how they do it, but if you look at their financial statements, I think the big line of revenue is advertising. And the theory I remember hearing is that Twitter ads can be curated, like Facebook ads, to reach a very targeted audience based on their large inventory of users and the volume of tweets that users send out. You can figure out what the users are interested in. You can then curate ads to those people. Here, this place is prime retail. What is it? What do they specialize in? It's a
Being
great
out of
chain.
business. Now, Charles, here's an excellent business plan.
What?
A weed truck outside of the Shade Shack. Shake Shack.
Where do you start first?
Right, well, right.
Which came first, the weed or the hamburger?
I mean, it's fake weed, which now people say, no, it's CBD. Whatever it is, that company, something not right about it. But now there's one other really important thing that came out of, I think maybe Steve Bannon mentioned this. Now let's wait. But so, okay, we've heard a lot about the Digital Millennium Copyright Act and the Communications Decency Act, Section 230, and how when that came out, we did not have widespread access to the internet. We did not have social media. That Digital Millennium Copyright Act was born out of a dispute that arose from a bulletin board system, which people would access by telephone modem, which was so slow and lacked capability as compared to today's internet, that it's like comparing some law made up to deal with riding horses in New York City and
Right.
now applying that law to General Motors.
Or to the
cannot
air
do it.
traffic control system or something.
Right. Right. Yes. It's like applying some horse buggy law to a 757.
Right.
So basically what happened was, remember that company Stratton Oakmont that the movie Wolf of Wall Street was all about? So that scandal initially started rearing its head in messages in the bulletin board on Prodigy.
Right.
And so Prodigy wanted to, Stratton Oakmont wanted to sue Prodigy, and this came out of that you can't sue Prodigy for information that somebody else put there,
Right.
because Prodigy was a small company, not everybody used it, and they wanted to help this type of growing interactive technology that eventually became the internet to thrive. But now that we flash forward to these being the most powerful, I think it was Ted Cruz who was talking about this, who, no secret, I don't like Ted Cruz, but when he says something that makes sense, I'll acknowledge it. Same thing with the New York Post, by the way. You and I have been very critical of the New York Post, but this is a situation where they've put out an important story,
Right.
and they've got a lot of evidence.
You know the big places out here, corner.
Yeah. But the thing with the CDA 230, where this is sort of like a double bite, is that the New York Post is a publisher of information. And so whoever wrote that article would come to the editor of the New York Post and say, "Boss, I have a crazy scoop. Hunter Biden's laptop was brought into a fix-it store. We got pictures of him smoking crack, doing whatever." The editor is going to look at it and determine if this is valid information. They're going to spend time running it down, which Bannon said they did, apparently months.
Right.
Which in my mind indicates that people in the Joe Biden camp were aware of this before it hit and could have run countermeasures like planting fake social engineering stories about Falcons and other things
Right.
to try to deflect away from the Hunter Biden story. But the point is, the New York Post would not publish that story if they had any inkling that it was false, because they'd be on the chopping block for getting sued like crazy, and that hasn't happened.
Well, in my experience dealing with the Post, and I've had stories in the Post that I've brought to them that they've written up, and in Fox, in the wider Murdoch world, on controversial topics, they get their lawyers involved checking them. So,
Of course.
So actually, it's an excellent point. We now have Twitter saying to the New York Post, you can't put the story up unless you can't
Have Twitter at all.
have
unless
Twitter
you-
at all unless you did take the story down. And you have the Fox real anchors who are aggressive talking about this and saying, what really happened here? Let's dig into this. And so who's going to win? Is Fox going to back down? In which case they've got real problems from One America News and the alternative media. Or are they going to push really hard? We do know that Josh Hawley, the senator from Missouri, and
He wants to modernize it.
and Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley is an expert in this area, and Ted Cruz is a very smart lawyer who may not be an expert in this particular field. But so we know those guys want to pay attention to it. And God, here's another.
I'm telling you.
I'm getting you. We have
Another weed world.
right. That's probably Hunter Biden's the unofficial spokesman.
I mean,
of
what's
that.
going on with all these trucks? You never see anybody buying anything from it, and what they're selling is illegal.
Well, they're probably inventing the numbers they need to put into the SEC so they can reduce the stock price, knowing that nobody in the SEC apparently is going to do anything about anything.
As soon as Weed World goes public, Charles, you got to get in on the IPO.
The ground floor, Jason?
Yeah. Weed World, Weed Land. But Charles, it's an unfair, I mean, that's a stacking of the deck when Twitter can be protected against
Right.
any kind of liability. And I mean, it's just unbelievable. Even people who in my family think I'm crazy are now saying, hey, wait a minute, something's wrong with this.
Well, we've seen in Donald Trump somebody who is not shy about defending views that other people initially say are crazy. We've seen him proven right more often than not.
I agree.
We have that awful person, Scary Moochie, or whatever his name is, the Mooch.
He's been silent about Hunter.
No. About Hunter, he's been silent, but he's been attacking the president right and left and saying,
Mostly left.
yeah, right. And of course, that's somebody who failed to get the message early in life that if you take one strident position, that you really love Trump and you raise money for Trump and you don't get the position that you wanted.
Sorry, Charles. Nygaard for rent. You see that?
Where?
Right over there. Nygaard. It says for
That's
rent.
an Nygaard store?
Let's take a look at it.
Huh. Never noticed that one before. You would have
That's
thought
his
he had a
main-
much bigger store.
That's his whole thing right there. That's his building. I mean, he's literally like
That whole building?
Yes, you see it? That weird thing
Oh,
up
there. Okay.
Because he's literally like that guy
Looking across the
from
street. No, I know.
Zoolander.
No, I actually know. I've been near his house. My friend in the Bahamas family sold their property to Louis Bacon, who is the one who's feuding with Nygaard. Nygaard's a fugitive in the Bahamas.
He's a weirdo, and he's
Total
got
weirdo.
a 727 with a CIA Compass Rose at the base of the stripper pole on there.
He's School of Epstein's. Who came first?
I agree.
Who came first, the Nygaard or the Epstein?
And so here's my theory, because we know that in 1999 there was an online gambling and online porn production company called StarNet Communications that was busted by the FBI, the IRS. That was in Vancouver. And we don't really know where the evidence from that bust went. David Hawkins and I have speculated that it could have been put onto a 727, and easily a room on a 727 filled with computer stuff could be explained away to James Patterson as a trading floor, when it could in fact have been running an entire video streaming service that either sent video recorded on the jet somewhere or received video recorded elsewhere onto the jet, so you could fly around outside of, you know, any
International,
particular
yeah.
right, and do things that would otherwise be illegal. Now, if what I know, Charles, from building offices and computer systems and things like that, when we moved 21st century 3D, the computer equipment that we had wasn't, you know, up to the minute the best thing.
Right.
But it was all configured to do exactly what we needed to do there, and it was all working. So there was a lot of value in keeping that system as it
Another
was. This is also Weed World. But there was a lot of value to keeping that configured system together, even though it wasn't necessarily the latest and the greatest and whatever. But eventually, you get to a point where computer equipment becomes so much better that all this stuff is so obsolete, you got to just get rid of it. And we're at that point where your phone, what
Right.
we're using right here, is essentially, hang on, doing exactly what potentially this whole entire data center may have been doing in 1999. So now, if you were somebody like, but not necessarily Barry Diller, and you had a jet and a Vimeo account, and you were on the board of MGM and had access to their online gambling technology, and your Interactive Corporation purchased StarNet Interactive, which owns something called GirlSense, which is a social media network for tween girls, you would potentially have all of the components of the software, hardware, and other things that Epstein, Nygaard, and these other weirdos might have been involved in.
Right.
Potentially.
So now here we are in Times Square, one of my least favorite places.
But it's also a wreck right now.
It's
and
much
lots of things
busier than
going
when
out
we
of
started
business.
on this in March, April. Remember, we would come out here and there'd be like,
Well, it's busier with people, but I still say we're approaching 50% of businesses out.
and all the Broadway theaters are out
Right.
until next year.
I know.
So what do you want to do? Go, oh, here are these idiots on bikes.
Oh, wow. Let's
is
go
what
see
I'm-
what's going on with that. That's
This
a
is
lot of them.
Yeah, well, this is what they do on the weekends. They get together in swarms, and they do these stupid things, going through lights, one behaving stupider than the next, and challenging you to do something about it. And oftentimes they pick fights. I'm amazed more of them haven't gotten hurt, and I mean seriously hurt. Of course, nothing happens.
Let's go see what's going on at the police station over there.
All right.
Speaking of nothing happening.
That's not how you spell veterans. Veterans. Veteran.
I think there was a glitch on the screen there.
Right.
So there's a lot of radio interference. I hope it doesn't.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe we should go
Yeah.
one block over, or
Well, what do we want to look at? What do we want to show people, Charles?
we haven't gone down 8th in a while.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's go this way and down 8th.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Right, there's a lot of carnage on this street. Still no word from Andrew Cuomo regarding movie theaters and other things potentially reopening.
Now look at that there, right? That's just graffiti. That's somebody has painted.
No, that's the ads.
I know, but it's an ad that's basically somebody's paid a lot of money to do an ad to put graffiti up. I mean, it doesn't work for me in the slightest.
Me neither. And as a matter of fact, given all the graffiti that's been recently added, it just makes me feel unhappy.
And the store right there, whatever it once was, is out.
Right. Pretty stupid.
Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to be walking, when we get over to 8th, we'll be walking by the failing New York Times.
Right. Oh, yeah. And the other thing that we could do, if you want, Twitter is on 8th down at 17th.
Okay,
So we
could
kind of
end-
got to head back down that way anyway.
We could end down there.
Oh, you know what I was thinking that we could do just to test the censorship?
What?
I wasn't sure if this was even possible, but I was going to try to take the Q train to Kew Gardens and see what that would cause YouTube to do.
Yeah. Another time. See, here's another one of these, bunch of these idiots.
I mean, it's skilled bike riding. I
It's
can't do
idiotic.
that. They've
It's
done it on the
idiotic.
sidewalk as well, which is quite dangerous.
That's out. I think that was that the McDonald's there?
That was McDonald's. Madame Tussauds is closed, I think.
Is it closed? Jesus.
Well, I'm pretty sure. I was walking by this side of the street the other day. Oh, wow, look at that. Free Ross.
What?
Ross Ulrich.
Who's that?
He is a guy who's in jail. It went away. So he's in jail for starting a Bitcoin trading thing that was the Silk Road.
All right.
And Chuck Schumer made sure he went to jail. He's in jail for life.
Really?
Non-violent criminal.
First offense?
First offense. And also, he never touched any of the items being sold. And federal agents gave false testimony at the trial. His mother has been on the show. Charles, that's a chain deli, that Pax.
Right. Was, I think is the key.
But that's closed here in Times Square. Yeah, but Ross's mom has been on the show talking about how, again, FBI informants, just like what they're talking about in the case of Gretchen Whitmer, they get involved in these things to basically be the ones causing the crimes and getting the people who they want arrested.
And you saw as well that Christine Dolan, we know her from various prior walks of life, had a piece last week accusing the Southern District of New York, or citing an opinion of a judge, extensively castigating the Southern District of New York and many attorneys in it for outrageous behavior, filing false charges, withholding evidence, engaging in vindictive behavior, and really taking apart the Southern District of New York, which used to be run by Preet Bharara, who is a political opportunist who Trump fired and has been a thorn in Trump's side. And the Southern District of New York, you remember, is the district that's going after Trump alongside Cy Vance.
Well, it's also the same district that's doing nothing with Ghislaine Maxwell and magically had Epstein disappear.
Right.
A lot of demand for Dallas BBQ, Charles.
Right. And for people pounding on milk cartons or whatever that guy's pounding on. You want to be pretty careful here about who you're walking next to.
Oh yeah, that's the
Porter.
cake guy. What's that guy's name again?
Did that go out of business?
It looks out of business, but what is it? The Ace of Cakes. It's closed,
Is it? Yeah.
so no cake coming out of there, I guess.
My cake place, Carlo's Bake Shop.
Totally closed. and then 11 Times Square. Do you remember what was there in 11 Times Square?
Vaguely.
Oh, look, it's got a black cube of Saturn on top of it.
Oh, this was T-Mobile, yeah.
Huh.
T-Mobile. Oh, yeah. I have the light, and you got to be careful.
So let's see what people are saying to us here, Charles. Saying, come on, the whole system is corrupt. Marco says, I love Sunday with Charles.
Oh, thank you, Marco.
Thank you, Marco.
Marco Polo.
Yeah. So I hope people who love the show will become sponsors on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. You know, Charles, I'm going to have more episodes of the new series taking people deep inside Robert David Steele's anti-speech strategy. I think people are going to find it very interesting because a lot of the tactics and techniques that are used against me are being used elsewhere. They're seemingly standard lawfare techniques, and it's going to help people understand what's going on, I think.
Microsoft is here.
Yeah, I know, the Microsoft store. But the thing is, you know, when we published that story questioning Falconer Allen Parrott,
Pretty odd that a falconer would be named after a parrot.
I find that kind of silly as well. Could be a coincidence. Heartland Brewery is closed over there, Charles. But when we started questioning that, the Tender Love and Care Police came out. You see that?
What are
TLC?
they? Jesus. Ridiculous.
It's probably the Taxi and Livery.
And here's the New York Times building.
But it was weird, Charles, because the second we started questioning it, the Daily Beast owned by IAC and Vimeo owned by IAC clamped down and shut down the whole entire Crowdsource the Truth Vimeo channel. Oh yeah, I've received the first beta of the Crowdsource the Truth video server, and it's not quite ready yet, but hopefully as soon as next week, it will start overtaking the need for Vimeo, and people who are sponsors will be able to access the full library again.
Wow.
So here's the failing New York Times.
Yeah, I can tell it's a beehive of activity with reporters swarming in and swarming out, trying to get to the bottom of the Hunter Biden emails.
Well, I wanted to ask you about this. All this Legg Mason Global Asset Management.
Yeah.
What are all those? Clearbridge, is that Scaramucci? Oh, he's Skybridge.
Skybridge, yeah. Legg Mason was, I don't know what it is now, an established, I want to say based in Maryland, investment bank and asset manager. Western Asset and Clearbridge I've never heard of. This whole building, I believe, used to be just for the New York Times, and then they've downsized because who reads the failing New York Times?
Yeah.
But I mean, you see no evidence of anybody swarming in and swarming out, trying to put together that barrage of stories, tearing apart and getting to the bottom of what was Hunter actually doing. As Trump likes to say, where's Hunter?
He knew about this for a long time. That's what he was saying.
But in my experience, when I've been working in the past on big merger deals or banking deals,
There'd be activity here
there would
today.
be limousines. There'd be black cars all over here where you'd have people running in and running out. You'd have television cameras swarming in, trying to figure out, is Maggie Haberman actually going to work today on this story, or you pick a New York Times person. This you could actually. Barack Obama must be very happy now because he likes to skeet shoot, and he could go skeet shooting here. Remember, he was a great skeet shooter. He
could have a basketball game in there.
Oh, skeet shooting. That's what he said. It was one of his favorite sports. I think probably somebody had to get to him and say, hey, Barack, skeet, it's not a bird. Really? I thought I was going to be in with the hunting crowd.
Yeah, well, his favorite dish is clay pigeon.
Right. Then we have some fire truck activity down
Oh, yeah,
there.
look at that.
We're heading towards them now. Sometimes when we get towards them, sometimes there's lots of radio interference, but
Well, hopefully that won't happen. Oh, Arby's is closed. I can't say I'm surprised by that.
I like that ad. We got the meats.
But have you ever eaten there? It's not
It's horrible. Where you typically on your first date, you go to what? Beer Authority there on the second floor, right above the Chase ATM, stopping first to get as many ones as possible.
good. I don't really like the beer
Or
authority.
alternatively, you go to Kiss My Slice Pizza.
That's pretty funny.
I don't actually like beer that much anymore, but
I used to drink a lot of beer, but no more.
yeah. Neither.
There's a Penske moving truck.
A what?
The
Oh,
Penske file.
Yeah. We can go, I think. Maybe.
No, these guys are determined to block the box and run people over.
So this is for my entire life in Manhattan, which is a long time now. This area has been horrible.
Yeah, this is where I used to have 21st century 3D office, and
Really?
I rented it for the low price. Oh yeah, I meant to tell you this, Charles. So somebody very generous sent me one of these Oculus, what is it called? Quest 2. Because you can't really leave your home anymore, so
Right.
interacting with people and entertainment and even exercise, got to come up with some creative ideas. So this is a virtual reality headset like what Mark Zuckerberg wants to use to control everybody. Yeah. And it's actually made by Mark Zuckerberg's company. Facebook bought the Oculus company. So I got it, and I was wanting to try it last night, and I turned it on, and you cannot use it without a Facebook account, which Crowdsource the Truth got canceled off of Facebook like sometime last week.
That's called, I mean, in the beer and restaurant business, that's called a Tide sale. Where you...
Not a Tide Pod.
No, or a pad Thai. No, it's where you make it, in order for somebody to use one thing, they've got to use something else. And I don't know that that's a technique that should be allowed to stay for long, given the monopolistic power
Right.
that Zuckerberg and Twitter, for that matter, not only have, but it seem to abuse on a regular basis. So,
And when you look at these types of technology platforms, I mean, forgive me if I'm assuming too much, Charles, but I'm willing to bet that unlike me, you were not in line in 2006 or 2007 to get the first iPhone.
no.
You probably were not using a smartphone until several years later, but
What I was doing, Jason, at that point in time, I was unfurling my string ball and tying two tin cans together to create my tin can intercom system.
my point being, at the time that type of technology was released, you and other people who are like-minded could have looked at it as an unnecessary kind of, something that an early technology adopter like myself might get, but you don't really need that.
No, I wasn't going to do that.
However, now, these smartphones have become a very important aspect of most people's day-to-day lives, and there's certain things that you cannot do without a smartphone. So if Facebook and others continue to control these types of technological innovations that may become critical parts of life in the future, and you're not allowed to use them unless you're socially responsible in the way that they determine that you can have an account in good standing on their little Marxist fiefdom, they can lock you out of entire areas there.
Yeah, again, I think the whole way in which Facebook, Twitter, and Google and others to monetize content you put into the system, the way in which they attract users needs to be better regulated. This is not good.
Very Blade Runner.
Right, you're not told when you go to sign up for Twitter and Facebook, look, if you use Facebook for an hour a day, 2 hours a day, whatever it is, Twitter for this period, we will then be able to get information so valuable that it's going to move our stock price 25 cents across billions of shares. I mean, you don't get that kind of analysis laid out for you before you make the decision to make Zuckerberg and Dorsey and others richer. And I don't think that's fair. I think there should be a much better way. Not only should we create real exposure when they engage in these tricks. So how is the Trump campaign going to recover from the abuses perpetrated by Dorsey, the coordinated abusers perpetrated by Dorsey, Zuckerberg, Facebook people who then, just as this was happening, went from employed at these companies to working on the transition team for Biden just when this happened? How do you recoup the damages suffered here? I mean, I don't know that you can quantify them.
Right.
But how do you recoup it? And how do you then learn from it? And who should be punished in the end for all this?
I don't know, Charles. It's a difficult question, but...
I can keep asking questions if you like.
Yeah.
Essen, we're open. Nah,
No,
not so much.
They're closed as can be.
I can smell the dope from here.
Well, I got one suspect in mind, and this is another Weed World truck. That's just sketchy, Charles.
Very sketchy. Of course, you'd have let's say they are doing something legitimate in the truck, you have perfect cover to be doing stuff that isn't legitimate in the truck as well. And who's going to go and check that out? Because our cops don't do anything.
No. And I blame the mayor for that. So
Do we
Andrew
have a mayor?
Cuomo's book is apparently not doing that well. I think people realize when the city and the state that you're the governor of are a disaster and you start publishing a book about leadership, that's a little bit stupid.
I would rather read the instruction manual from my 3-in-1 scanner printer fax machine in Korean English before spending any time trying to decipher what Andrew Cuomo has to say about anything. There's a guy who really owes his entire existence to his father's period of graft and corruption. And he's done, with regard to running COVID in one of the biggest states, he's made it virtually impossible for the president to make the correct decisions here. And the city's a wreck thanks to him, and it's not going to recover.
It's a wreck.
So here we have,
There's a Penske moving truck.
well, there are a lot. But this is a dodgy part of town we're entering into now. But it'll be interesting to walk down it. I haven't been over here in a while.
I think that's better, this stretch that we're going into now, than where we just were.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm referring right here to in front of the
The New Yorker?
Amtrak station.
Oh, right, Penn Station.
Yeah. Because this, if you remember our first
That's where we were
pandemic,
attacked.
that's where we were attacked in like the first.
Should we go back down in there and see what the status is?
No. No, thank you, Jason.
Oh, I'm getting a low battery warning here,
Okay.
so
Well, we're getting close.
we might be close to the end of our broadcast.
But this used to be in the days when I think the trains went in there.
Which is, we're back to that.
And now they're back to that. In the old days, this used to be humming. They had put in Madison Square Garden. They had a bunch of nice restaurants around here. You weren't too far away from Broadway. This was the train station for the long distance trains. So there's a certain amount of status involved taking those trains. And now it's the headquarters of the Bum Olympics.
Something's going on.
Yeah, not good. Keep going this way, or?
Yeah, wherever you want to go.
Yeah. Okay, careful.
Yep.
I mean, it's really amazing to me that there are 25 police officers in front of this building and then patrolling around saying, listen, you can't take a crap on the floor, which happened on that broadcast.
Yes,
And it wasn't me or you.
correct. Thankfully.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not as if there were no bathrooms in Penn Station. I mean,
It was chaos down there,
Right.
Charles. I mean, as you just said, I've been reluctant to enter the place since then.
well, I basically like to be somewhat aware of the odds. And here we're above ground. We don't have to get through a checkpoint that could be blocked at the bottom and the top by a bunch of
Stairs,
these.
right.
And then you get down there and there could be 100 people on the stupid bikes for all we know.
Could be anything going on down there. I mean, based on the number of taxis that we're seeing right now, I would think it's sort of returned to normal, whatever. You know what, Charles? This battery is really dying now. Ooh, it's down to 7%.
Okay, so
I
why
think
don't
we
we
should
terminate?
probably end the broadcast before it decides
All
to
right.
end itself, which could be any second. So I want to thank the 1.5 thousand viewers who are with us right now.
Thank
That's
you
an
very much.
impressive number. And did that guy just take my picture?
I don't know.
I
He's
didn't
just
really
a tourist.
notice what he was doing. But hopefully people will become sponsors and enjoy the sponsor-exclusive broadcasts on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. The full sponsor exclusive library will be back very soon, and your sponsorship is helping to make that possible. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks, Charles, for joining
Thank you,
me.
Jason.
And we have a couple of guests that I'm trying to secure for Wednesday, so we'll see. Oh, and right, we have a couple of interesting guests hopefully for Wednesday. So see everybody tomorrow. Have a great night.